Hey everyone, welcome to Danny Chats. This is episode number 39, and this week I'm joined by liver transplant patient Lisa. Lisa's from the UK, the same as me. Hi Lisa, how are you doing?
Hi Danny, I'm fine, thanks. How are you?
I'm very, very good. So I've been following you on Instagram for a while, and I know just because we're on the second take of this, that you had your transplant in 2021.
That's right, yeah, last October. So I'm just coming up to 8 months post.
Yeah, that's incredible. So fresh out the blocks, really, and you look
Yeah,
great.
thank you. Thanks. Yeah, I'm feeling, I've had quite a lot of complications post-transplant. So my journey's, the roller coaster continues. But I'm feeling good at the moment. Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's important to sort of tell people about the ups and downs
Sure.
because there are ups and downs to the journey, and
Yeah.
I think some people think that it's all downs, and other people think that it's all going to be ups. So
Yeah.
it's good to
There's
highlight all this.
mixed ideas about it all, isn't there? A lot of people think you have a transplant and that's it, you're cured for life, and
Yeah,
for a lot of us we have diseases that's not the case, and this is more of a treatment rather than a cure. So there are ups and downs, and you've got to ride the highs and take the lows, don't you, really?
yeah, that's exactly it. That's exactly it. So let's sort of go back to the start of your story. So how did you end up finding out that you were going to need this liver transplant?
Well, my story starts back in March 2020, just as lockdown hit, really. But really, throughout the family, my story started way before that. My mum
Yeah.
has the same liver disease that I have, so we both have PBC, which is primary biliary cholangitis, previously called primary biliary cirrhosis, but there was a petition to change the name because of the stigma that comes with the word cirrhosis. Um, it's a disease which they haven't done enough science on yet, or put enough money into it to decide whether it's hereditary or not. But I think everyone in the groups that I'm in for PBC, they've all got a mum, a grandma, an auntie that have all got the same disease. So it does seem to run through families.
Yeah.
So I probably had it for a lot longer than what I knew. My mum had it, she's had it now for over 25 years, and she's just had this liver disease, and she's just taken this magic pill, and everything's been great, and she's been very stable, and touch wood, long may that continue. So we knew that mama had this, we knew about a liver disease that wasn't caused by alcohol, and we carried on with normal life. And then, like, in probably about 2019, I started itching a lot. Sorry about that.
That's
I
right.
started itching a lot, and I actually worked on farms, and I worked out on the roads. I was in hotels a lot, and so I kind of put it down to being on farms that was making me itch, or lots of different hotels, lots of different beds that lots of different
Yeah.
people had slept in, all the horrible things you can think of. That's where my mind was kind of going. I wasn't a fan of going to the doctors, ironically. So I kind of stayed away from the doctors and tried different shampoos, different body washes, changing my diet, using a different detergent to wash clothes and things like that. But nothing was taking this itch away, and it was getting worse and worse and worse. And I was starting to pull my skin off, starting to bleed, and it was becoming not just at night, but all day. So my mum turned around to me and said, I want you to go and get a blood test. Itching is a sign of a liver disease. So just for peace of mind, go and get one done. So I phoned the doctors, got one booked in, went in at 10 o'clock in the morning, had the bloods, thought nothing of it. And then about 11 o'clock that night, I had a no caller ID.
Wow.
A thing which would become very familiar over the next
Yeah.
2 years. And they said, we're sending an ambulance, we need to get you into hospital. I said,
Wow.
no, stop. I've got 2 dogs. I'm not leaving them on their own. I feel fine. Why are you sending me an ambulance? So, the short of it is my bloods were through the roof. They were really bad. They actually thought I had a gallbladder problem. They thought that something was going on with my gallbladder. They'd need to get me in, get it taken out as quickly as possible. So I agreed with them after doing like a self-check, which they talked me through, to go into hospital the next day. Had some more tests. This is when I told them that my mum had PBC, so they tested for that, and it came back that I had PBC.
Yeah.
So that, yeah, as I said, that was around March and April, over those 2 months that we did these tests and MRI scans and ultrasounds and all the other stuff that comes along with a liver disease. It all happened over that period of time, just at the beginning of lockdown.
Yeah. So you mentioned that they don't know whether that's a hereditary disease, but do you think if you had possibly been tested for that earlier, that you could have taken that tablet that your mum was on? I take it that's.
Yeah, I think so. I'm actually unresponsive to that tablet, hence why I've ended up having a liver transplant.
So they did put you on it.
Mhm.
They did put you on it. Your liver hadn't got to a point where it needed. Okay.
Yeah, they put me on the tablet. My liver wasn't cirrhosed or anything like that. There was a bit of fibrosis, which is the stage before cirrhosis there. So, I got diagnosed with PBC. They put me on deoxycholic acid, which is this tablet my mum was on. And I thought, great, I can carry on with my normal life because my mum's carried on with a normal life for 25 years and everything will be fine. So they put me on this tablet, and I had to continue having bloods just so they could keep checking what was happening whilst I was starting on new medication. And it's at the time it was the only licensed medication for PBC.
Yeah.
So my bloods were declining every week on week, decline, and in quite big numbers as well. So they wanted to do a biopsy, which used to be the old way of diagnosing liver disease, but now they try not to do biopsies. They can do it through blood tests and things, as you know. So they decided to do a biopsy. So I went in and had that done. And it came back that I had a very aggressive variant of PBC, something called ductopenia. So with PBC, it's your bile ducts within the liver are being affected. Lots of our friends have got PSC, which is a similar disease. There's lots of similarities, but the bile ducts on the outside as well as the inside are being affected. Okay. So my bile ducts on the inside of my liver are all starting to narrow. That's what PBC does. They start to get blocked slowly over time. Then there's less function, causing a backup of bile in the liver, which then causes cirrhosis. Yeah. Mine weren't blocking slowly or narrowing slowly. They were just disappearing. So in my biopsy, and the very tiny, minute bit that they took, they should have been able to see 15 bile ducts. They could see 2. Oh, wow. So so that was the problem then at that point. I've got a different variant of PBC to what my mum had, and so deoxycholic acid isn't working. Yeah. So they tried me on lots of different things then over a period of about a year. There's lots of different options, unlicensed options, but let's try this, just trying to keep you going for as long as they can without transplants.
Yeah. So then that didn't work. The tablet didn't work, unfortunately. So then they must have sort of sat you down and said, we're going to put you on the transplant list.
Yeah, so my itching was getting worse and worse and worse. So the symptoms of the disease they were becoming unbearable. I had no quality of life at all. I wasn't sleeping, so I had sleep reversal as well. So I was fatigued by day, which is a big symptom of liver disease. And then by night, the minute I'd get into bed, ding, it was insomnia. I was going down the beach walking at 4 o'clock in the morning with my dog because I just needed to get out of bed and out of the house because I had restless legs. So quality of life was becoming really affected. And that's when my consultant at Exeter, which is my local hospital, said, we've got one more tablet to try. It's a steroid tablet. And if after this doesn't work, we've got no other options but to discuss transplant. So that was a bit of a shocker for me. I wasn't, because this had never been discussed in my mum's history of the disease. I wasn't really expecting it. So we tried the steroids for 3 months, actually, but very quickly on in that 3 months, we could see it wasn't working. I was having continuous decline. And so that's when my hospital, Exeter, reached out to King's College in London and asked to discuss me as a patient for transplant.
Yeah. So that's all moved quite quickly for you, really, trying all these different meds and hoping that they were going to work, and then within like a year, I suppose, ended up on the transplant list.
Yeah, really quickly compared to some, lots of people with lots of different varying diseases like yourself. It can be a much longer period of time. It can get diagnosed much earlier. And yes, if I had a blood test much earlier and they would have had an AMA positive, which shows you've got PBC, then I would have been diagnosed a lot earlier, and over time the symptoms would have got worse. So I would have ended up in the same place because I was unresponsive to the medication. So no one's at fault or anything. It's just one of those things. I just lived asymptomatically for so long. So yeah, transplant discussions came along. That was must have been the March, April of 21. I had part of my assessment at Exeter, and then had the rest of the assessment up at King's College in London.
Did you have to go and stay at King's for a couple of days? Did you do that?
Well, I wasn't an inpatient. We did it as an outpatient.
Yeah.
So that was good. And I had 3 other people being assessed at the same time as outpatients. And because I'd done a lot of the tests at Exeter already, day 2 of what would have been the test day at King's, they all went off with their schedule of where to be for what test. I'd already done all of that, so I only had to do really 1.5 days at King's. They ended up calling me back in because one of my bloods, the main blood that they need when a match comes in, they match it against, it wasn't viable, so they needed an extra tube for that. So yeah,
that's important. That is.
That's the most important one. They said, "I'm really, really sorry. We can't wait until your next test. We need that one now because we can't list you without it." So luckily, I was in the area still, so I just went back in and had that done. And then they have the big discussion, as you know, on the Friday, the MDT meeting, and then I got the call about 1 o'clock on the Friday afterwards in end of May last year, saying that that's it. Yeah, you've been listed.
Molly, come in. Sorry.
That's okay. I've got 2 downstairs.
Yeah, you should have brought them up. They could have said hello. So I mean, that was kind of leading me to the point of your dogs and stuff then, because Exeter and King's not that close. Molly, shush, please. So your life's obviously changed quite a lot. Did you have to stop work? What did you think about the dogs? What was your plans at the time?
So for me, and I don't think there's a way of saying this without it sounding awful, but I don't mean it in an awful way at all. COVID helped. Because I was locked down. We proved at work we could all work from home. Hospitals were shut down, to an extent, and people stopped socializing and stuff. And it was at a time where, although alcohol didn't cause my disease, if I was to continue drinking alcohol, it means I would have a quicker decline, because we all know alcohol's not good on the liver. So I stopped drinking in that time. People weren't going to the pubs. So for me, it came at, if it was going to come at any time at all, it came at the best time it could. So I was working from home in the home office, no problem at all. That was great. A really supportive team at work. I miss them dearly at the moment. I can't wait to get back to work. At the time, when did I have to stop working? So I went in, the itching was so bad. I've been listed for transplant. That was on the 2nd of June last year. I was on the waiting list, and to give me some kind of respite, because they obviously don't know when a match is going to come in. To give me some kind of respite, they wanted to put a nasobiliary drain in. So they put a drain in my liver, in my bile duct, and it came up and out through my nose, and that was the way for me to drain the bile off my liver that was getting stuck stagnant within my liver, causing extra damage and causing me to itch.
So does that mean where's the drainage bag from that then?
I haven't got it now.
No, but where was that? Sorry. So you come out your nose,
and then I just had I carried a bum bag and put the bag in there, and that carried round, and then I'd just drain it probably 3, sometimes 4 times a day.
Wow, that's a lot.
But it was amazing. Well, I say it was amazing. So I went in and had the ERCP, which is the procedure to have the nasobiliary drain put in. Done at King's. It was under general anaesthetic. That was my first ever general anaesthetic, actually, and I was quite pleased because it meant I got a trial run before the big day. So I kind of knew the process and all that kind of stuff. I've never stayed in hospital before, so it was all a bit new. So went in, and unfortunately, when I woke up, there was lots of risks. Not many people have a nasobiliary drain anymore. They just don't do it. So I was told about all these risks. And one of the main ones, like any ERCP procedure, your pancreas can get knocked, and pancreatitis is a big risk. And when I woke up, I knew I had pancreatitis. So I ended up staying in hospital for a week with the nasobiliary drain in, and with pancreatitis on, but high antibiotics, high pain relief, and all the rest of it. So it got me used to having the drain in, which was great. And then I came out, and probably by the time I came out, which was like 7 days, the itching had started to stop. So it had all the bile that was in my liver had to come out first, and then it just the natural way of working, as a normal body would just clear that bile out. That's what my tube started doing for me, and I loved it. I absolutely loved my tube because it gave me such relief. I could sleep. I wasn't itching as much, you know, but there was still a bit of insomnia there. There was still a bit of itching there, because it was never going to take all the bile out, but it made a huge difference to my quality of life. And I'm really competitive, and I was told that no one's ever kept a nasobiliary drain in for more than 10 weeks. So I was like, I'm gonna do it. Yeah, I'm gonna do it. So the weeks passed, week 1, week 2, week 3, and I was like, this is great. But as that time went on, my liver functions, which were already bad, were already in the thousands, started getting worse and worse and worse again. And they started threatening, we're gonna have to take it out. And I was like, no, I need to keep this thing in, not just for the competitive now, but just for the fact that I was petrified of going back to itching the amount I was. We got to 9 weeks and 4 days. I was gutted, and they said it has to come out.
So close to the end.
So close, but you know, it is what it is. So I was in London. My husband works in London, so we were up there anyway, and they said, come in, we're gonna take it out. And I was like, do I really need to spend 30 quid on an Uber to come in for you to pull a tube out? And they were like, no. And I said, and the nurse that's going to pull it out, you do them that infrequently, likeliness is she's never pulled one out either. And they were like, true. And I said, I'm going to do it.
No.
And like, right? And I said, yeah, I want to do it. And they said, okay, right, if you're going to do it, this is what you need to watch out for. If you get any snagging or anything, then you need to stop straight away and come in, and all the rest of it. So I stood there, braced myself in front of them. My husband didn't know what to do with himself. He was just...
My eyes are watering.
Trying to rub my back. And so I went with it.
Yeah, because that's a long way to go.
It's a long
It's not
way.
like it's just in a little bit. That's like
it's a long
pulling
way.
and pulling and pulling. That must be such a weird sensation.
Yeah. And where they put it in, where it's put into the bile duct, it's done with like a pigtail. So that bit was fine. I could feel it all coming up through my body. I knew exactly where it was, the end of it was at any point. And then when it got to my throat, there was a bit of trouble, and I was like, I don't know how I'm going to get this out through my nose. And I pulled it out of my mouth so I could see the end of it. And it was like a pigtail. And at that point, and if anyone's watching this has got a nasobiliary drain, you decide to take your own out, snip the end off at that point.
Yeah, good idea.
I didn't. I went for it, and I just went, Mum, just pulled the thing out. I know. I've got it all on video. I videoed it all. And yeah, so I pulled it out, and they couldn't believe it either. Didn't need to go in. That was great.
Saved yourself 30 quid.
Yeah, so each way, save myself 60 quid.
There you go, that's well worth it.
A load of time. It would have taken a day. I wouldn't have had a nurse waiting for me when I arrived at the hospital just for me, you know. So yeah, it saved the whole day as well. And my poor nose, where this tube had been sat for so long, was totally deformed. And I was my nose is never going to go back to normal. It took a couple of days, and it did go back to normal, thankfully. So that was end of July, end of August, end of September. And then the itching came back, sleepless nights came back, my bloods were declining still. They were talking about putting another one back in, and then my call came. So that came in the October. Yeah. So I wasn't on the list.
Was that the first call?
First call, yeah. So because I knew so many people who'd had false calls, I think you had one, didn't you?
I had three false calls, and then the fourth one I got lucky. Yeah.
Oh gosh. So pretty much everyone bar one person I knew had an amount of false calls. So I was in London at the time because I was going up to have a cancer scan, and that my sister got married on the Friday. I went to London on the Monday, and I had the cancer scan on the Wednesday. Monday night I called the hospital, King's, and I said, I've got this tingling all over my body. It's been going on for a little while, but I haven't told you up until now because I had my sister's wedding, and I knew that I was worried that you were going to call me in and I would miss it. But it's all over. I'm pacing. It's not the itch. I've got the itch as well. It's something different. And she said, call 111. I don't think it's your liver. And I want you to go to UCL emergency room, just explain the situation to them. So off I went to UCL. My husband was waiting outside because no one was allowed in with anybody. And I sat down, checked in, had all my obs done, sat down, 9:15 in the evening, and my phone went no caller ID. Didn't think anything of it because I'd already spoke to somebody at King's. So I picked it up, and this time it wasn't Tiffany, it was another one. It was Grace, another one of the coordinators. And she just said, Lisa, and I said, hi Grace, I'm here, I'm at UCL, I spoke to Tiffany earlier, I'm just waiting for my appointment. And she said, okay, I don't know anything about that, and I'm not calling for that. We've got you a liver. And I was just like, I can't even say what I said.
I swore as well.
Yeah, everybody who was sat in that waiting room were just going, what is going on? So she said, wait there, we don't have a bed yet, and if we don't have a bed it can't go ahead. So I thought, why did you ring me and tell me you've got a match but you haven't got a bed? She said, just give me half an hour, I'm going to find you a bed. It won't be on a liver ward, but we'll find you one and we'll call you back. So she said, stay there and keep that appointment just in case. So I sat there, called my family, let them know what was going on. I think I entertained everybody in that waiting room.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah, they were all listening in to what was going on. And then Grace called back and she said, we've got a bed, so make your way over. Yeah, so I got a black cab to my liver transplant.
That's good. So good. How that all worked out in timing as well.
It couldn't have been better. My sister's wedding, being in London, because I was really dreading when you're a patient at you were King's, weren't you? Yeah. If you live a distance, they pick you up by ambulance. And I'm 5.5 hours away, and I'm a really crap passenger. Really? And I thought, God, they're not going to let me take any Stugeron. I was really getting worked up about not about having my body opened up and a new organ fit in.
The 5-hour travel.
The 5-hour ambulance journey was freaking me out more than anything. So the fact that I was in London, I was there, it all worked out really well. And my husband and I went on in. We never expected it to go ahead. I was fully primed for a false call. And that was like, I got in there about 11 o'clock in the evening. 11 o'clock the next morning, in walked a surgeon with the paperwork. So at that point, I knew it was going ahead.
Yeah, because I had the 3 false calls, and the 4th one I had it. I wasn't, even when I was lying on the surgery bed, I was just expecting them to go, I was expecting them to go, oh, actually, it's just not right, So it wasn't until I woke up and I sort of, looked down, I was like, wow, it's definitely happened.
Yeah, because some people get right to the point, they get put to sleep, and then they wake up and it hasn't happened.
No, see, that's exactly what I was expecing. Imagine that.
So that would just be awful, wouldn't it?
Just had a really long sleep,
and waking up and being like, yeah, it's done, and then no, it's not. Oh, no, that would be awful. Yeah, false calls, and especially to that extent, I was prepared for them. I obviously didn't want that to happen, but I always feel for people who go through them, because you see on the the support groups on Facebook and stuff, people saying, I've had my call, I'm going in, and then a couple hours later you see them saying it wasn't meant to be.
It wasn't the hospital that really prepared me for it. I don't think they might have mentioned that it might not happen on the first time, but it was someone again that I'd met on social media.
Agree.
And they just said to me, be prepared for it to happen a couple of times,
Yeah, same for me. That again, the hospital said it in the educational session that you have to have, but it didn't sink in from what they said. Social media, definitely where I learned from other patients going through the same thing.
So well, we're talking about social media. Did you go on social media before your transplant and seek out all these people that had gone through it? How did you approach it?
So I've always had not always had an Instagram page, but I had an Instagram page for a long time, for years, and it was actually Slimming World page. There are other diets out there. So it was a Slimming World page, and if you scroll back on my page, it's just all my food, breakfast, lunch and dinner. And that's all it was. It was my motivation for an account to keep myself fit and healthy, and it helped other people in the meantime. So that's where the majority of my following came from, actually. Originally was from Slimming World. And then, I got diagnosed, and I'm one of those people that previously, before my diagnosis, I couldn't even watch Casualty. No. Doctors, no, I couldn't watch anything like that. I was awful. I worked with vets, so I could deal with animal surgeries and things like that, but actual humans, no. So I got diagnosed, and my whole mindset just changed instantly, and I found myself YouTubing liver transplants, and and going on social media and looking for the support groups, starting on Facebook, moving over to Instagram, and finding people who were using hashtags like liver transplant, PBC, King's College Hospital, that kind of stuff, and started building on this community. And then that's when my page kind of flipped, because I thought, I've got a real opportunity here. I've got quite a big following through food, and
the best
I've
thing.
got an opportunity, to show people what transplants mean, what liver diseases mean, changing the stigma around liver disease, what organ donation is all about, and really raising awareness to get people to sign on to that register and talk to their family, and do something for the greater good at a later date.
Yeah, I've noticed like your page is very focused on sharing information and just generally raising awareness, and it's really good, because I had thoughts on my page early on, was like, should I just talk about liver transplant stuff? But since then, I've had people that obviously have followed me through not liver transplant stuff, but then they're seeing this stuff, which is good for them.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I did lose quite a bit of my following at first, because not everybody who is on Instagram looking at breakfast, lunch and dinner and getting meal ideas wants to see a liver. And that's absolutely fine. That's people's choice. But then at the same time, a lot of my following on there, that I was getting messages saying, wow, I can't believe what you've been through, what you're going through. I didn't realize liver diseases were caused by other things other than alcohol and drugs, and they were starting to learn through me. And then there was people who were getting these symptoms and were going off to the doctors and getting checked out, which is huge. That's massive. Because if they're checked out early and those magic pills do work for them, it can stop them from getting to that the stage of going through the risk of having a transplant. And then more importantly, had people coming up and saying, I've just registered to become an organ donor. So, there's my
at the door.
Do you need to go?
We'll just have to.
It might be something for your van.
2 seconds. Sorry about that.
Don't worry. I love all your plants.
Yeah, it's like a little jungle in here. I started collecting plants when I was signed up for my transplant. So it kind of, because I was off work, it kind of gave me a little focus and like a kind of reason to live. It sounds a bit much, but it was like they depended on me, and just to water them and take them outside and give them a clean every now and then, and it's just and then now it's out of control. I've just got loads of them.
They're just everywhere. It's good though. It's good for the oxygenation in the room and all that kind of stuff. This is my home office, and I've got loads of cactus and stuff, because I find when I'm working, I'm sat in here for 8 hours a day. So it's important. It's good. It's nice to have a focus, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And oddly, I'm really bad with cactuses. I forget to water them, and I know they only need small bits, but I forget for so long, and they end up just shriveling up and dying.
Do you know the tip with cactuses is to put a ice cube in them once a month?
That's a good one. So it just melts in slowly.
Yeah.
There you go. Top tips.
Top tips. And like you with your plants, that's just what gave you your focus. Raising awareness of organ donation for me was what gave me my focus, and sharing my journey, and removing some of that stigma. It is all about finding a focus, isn't it?
Yeah. So then, how long were you in King's after your operation?
14 days exactly.
14 days. And did you have the drainage bags on your hips as well?
I did until I had the when were my drains removed? My neck came out whilst I was in ICU, 2 neck. So I woke up without them, which was good. And then my hip drains, they came out probably on day 5.
Yeah.
Same as the catheter. That all came out day 4, day 5, I think. So
that's
so good. I only had 12 hours in ICU, and then on to the ward. How long were you on for?
I think I wasn't in ICU for very long. I woke up from surgery early, earlier than expected.
Not whilst you're still open, I hope.
No. I was fully back in the on the ward and stuff. But they told my sister I wouldn't be awake till the next day, and then I woke up that evening, and I was super hungry. So my dad was there. Luckily, he went off and got me an ice lolly, because obviously you're not allowed to eat anything. Apart from ice. That's all they fed me for, like, it felt like days, but I think it was just 24 hours.
Yeah.
And And then
it's funny you say that, because I woke up in ICU. I don't remember this. And I asked the nurse who was looking after me for the phone, and I gave her my husband's telephone number. And he came on the line, obviously was not expecting to hear from me. And he'd had lots of updates along the way. So he was just expecting it to be another update call. And I said, I didn't say hello. I just said, I'm really thirsty. I need you to bring in Ribena, 7-Up, Dr. Pepper, Coke, water, and a straw.
All the drinks.
Then handed the phone back.
All the drinks.
Yeah, the thirst was just unreal.
Yeah.
I wasn't hungry though. I wasn't hungry for probably even months. I lost all my appetite completely.
Really? Yeah, there's quite a few people that I see it has happened to. Obviously, that's why they give you steroids and stuff after the operation, isn't it, to help with that. I think I've always been blessed with a big appetite, so that didn't go. Yeah, so it's good that he wasn't in. Well, no, 14 days you say you was in for.
14
afterwards.
days. Yeah.
It's not too long.
They wanted to move me back to my local hospital. And actually, someone across the way, Steve and Lisa, a lovely couple I met, he came in, I think, 2 days after me and had his from Plymouth. He actually got repatriated down to Derriford on day 7 or something like that. But I didn't want to go to Plymouth. I refused to go to Plymouth. So I was like, no, you can keep me here. So
staying at King's.
Because my husband's got the flat in London, I managed to, I don't think they were going to let me go because I had rejection on day 5. So there was lots of things going on. But when we got to day 14, I proved to them I could walk on my own. I was eating. I could go to the toilet on my own, and I could have a shower. And I'd done the stairs down to Costa and Marks and Spencer's.
Yeah.
Stairs back and up a couple of times. So they were quite happy. I made it my mission to be in that corridor and walking whenever it was doctor's rounds.
Yeah.
So I would be the one that was constantly in the way.
Yeah.
If they came and changed my bed, I'd go up to the, because I was in room 8. Were you in? Where were you?
I can't honestly remember, to be honest. I think was we talking about it?
Yeah, we did. Yeah, I saw a picture. I thought
we were on the same room. Yes, yes.
You were room 8 as well, next to the nurses' station.
Yeah.
So I made it my mission. Doctors' rounds, I would be out in the corridor. When they were changing my bed, I'd go up to the little waiting room at the very front of Todd Ward. So I just basically annoyed everybody until they were like, "Get out of here." And because my husband is just down the road in Westminster, I said I can go and stay there, and I'll stay in London for a few more days, so if you need me back in quickly I can get back in. And they were quite happy with that, so they let me go and do that, and then I came back to Devon.
Yeah.
So
well, that ward space is vital. They don't want to keep people there longer than they need to, because when they said I could go home, they literally said you could go home. I had to be packed up within an hour. My sister took a few hours to get there, and they were like, right, you got to go and wait in that waiting room now. Like you're gone, you're out.
The same to me.
Yeah.
I actually I called the sister in and I said, this is really bad actually how you're treating me right now. You've all been amazing for 2 weeks. Now you're making me really frightened actually, like the way you're trying to push me out. And I said it to my consultant because he came in as well, and I said what had happened, and he said, I'll sort that out. And then the sister came back in and she went, take as long as you want, we'll get your lunch. And because I was like, my husband's at work, he's got to get over here. It's not as quick and easy as that. I'm not going to carry anything. How can I put my suitcase on the bed?
Yeah, exactly.
So they do that. They rush you back out, don't they, in preparation for the next person. So you just got to do what just got to get out.
Yeah. Well, that time they said to me, get out, go and sit in the waiting room. So I was in the waiting room, and there was a guy in there that I'd seen on the ward, and he told me that he had his liver transplant a good few years ago. He moved to Spain and stopped taking his medication, was drinking sangrias and everything. And he told me this horrific story. So he'd been in a coma for so long, they couldn't cut his nails, so his nails overgrew, all because he didn't take his meds. And he just said to me, just make sure you take your meds.
So that was like his anti-rejection drugs.
Yeah, stopped it, and he said he was out in Spain. He was eating the oranges that he shouldn't. He was drinking sangrias, and everything that he shouldn't. And and then his life really changed. He said his family all left him, and it's such a big downfall in his life that I was like, yes, make sure you take your meds.
Take your meds. Take your meds. Yeah. No, I'm a stickler for my meds. Thank goodness. For me, it's like I have it's routine. Sundays are pharmacy days for me, and I sit down and do 2 weeks worth. I keep, your anti-rejection is supposed to be out of its packet, so I just cut round those and pop them into my pill pots. And it can change any time. I'm still on weekly bloods at the minute. 8 months on, it's crazy. Wow. Yeah, it's because I've had a stent put in since the transplant. I've had cholangitis 2 or 3 times. I've had sepsis. I've had COVID. I've even had scarlet fever.
Really? You've had everything?
I was like, God, I was like, I'm next for monkeypox. I'm down for monkeypox. What's going on? I was like, it's like the 1800s. Any disease I can pick up, I'm picking up. So I've been in and out. So unfortunately, most people by 8 months are down to monthly bloods. And 3 monthly clinics. I'm not quite there yet, but I'm still very grateful for all the help that I'm receiving.
Yeah, you're very, very upbeat for it, because it can be very wearing. I mean,
it can.
I was I don't want to use the word lucky, but I was already I'd had a lot of experience in hospitals and everything like this before, from my teenage years. So to go into hospital wasn't a shock. I've been going to King's every year since I've been a teenager, so that wasn't a shock. Yeah, so all of that to do after, for not going, and your attitude is very, very good, because that could break some people.
Yeah, and so I've always been that really annoying, over positive person anyway. I've always been that, and I've really made a point to myself, and I agree with you, shouldn't use the word lucky, because we wouldn't be in this position in the first place. But I just think to myself, I'm still alive, I'm still here, I can change something. If one person signs up to the organ donation register, although I'm not asking them to die, do you know what I mean? I'm just saying, just sign up. So when you're 70 and it does sadly happen, hopefully in your sleep at night, I'm not asking you to go and have a horrible death or anything, you might be able to go on and save some more people. And if I just have one person that does that and goes on and saves, between 2 and 9 people, then I'm quite happy with what I've been through. It is what it is, and I think you just got to embrace it, and look at all the wins, and take some time for yourself. When you have a low day, accept it, have a low day, and either hide yourself away from the world if that's how you do best in that situation, or speak to other people like yourself who have been through something similar.
I think that's important, to accept that there are going to be days where you're really not feeling good about yourself and good about everything that's going on, which is a reasonable emotion to have, really.
100%, absolutely.
But know that you get to the end of it, and it's all worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. The sun shines always after a rainstorm, so you just got to kind of roll with it, and do your best, and embrace the people that are around you, whether that be family, whether it be friends, whether it be the transplant coordinator, whoever is your support network. Embrace it and pull on it when you need it, and just, I think the most important thing for people like us is to educate yourself. I think doctors, your consultants really appreciate it if you go in and you know what you're talking about, and you stand up for yourself, and if you don't agree with something, you speak up. I think they really appreciate that. I'm on the tacrolimus seesaw at the moment. 1 week it's too high, 1 week it's too low, and we've all been there, and mine's just ongoing. It's constant, and every week we're changing. And I was like, why aren't you putting me on 5.5 mg? Why are we going 5, 6, 5, 6? And they were like, because the doses that they supply. And I was like, this drug is available in 0.75. We can do it. We can make it. And they were like, is it? So they were like, well, fine, let's try it. And for 2 weeks I've been stable. So I think they really like it if you educate yourself, you own your disease, you own your life as an immunosuppressed person, which is what we are, and you make the best out of it, but you challenge things, and I think it's really important.
Because I suppose, as a doctor, you are an expert, but you're not an expert in that one field. Like that disease isn't your only thing, so they've got to know a lot about everything. So it must be very hard to stay up, and medication's constantly changing, and research is constantly changing. It must be hard.
Exactly. A lot of people have got a big issue with GPs and liver disease. And like you say, like GPs especially, they know a little tiny bit of everything. Like these are the people that you go into, the first response, and they then refer on to the specialists. And even the specialists, they're not looking after one disease, they're looking after many diseases. So it is really up to you to know how it feels. And also these people, very rarely, I'm sure it happens at some point, but very rarely have they got the disease themselves. Do they understand what you've been through? So they're just trying to pull from their patients as much information for them to learn, to then pass on to the next patient. So I think open honesty, being really transparent, sticking up for yourself, educating yourself, I think they're really important fundamental things of having a disease and owning it. Like the amount of people, you must get it as well, you don't look ill, you don't look like you've had a liver transplant, you know, you don't, it's so, it can be so frustrating, but you just got to go, thank you, that's great, cheers, I'll take it. It's like when before, when I was having to use disabled parking spaces because I couldn't walk very far, someone came up to me and said, this is a disabled parking space, and I said, yeah, I'm well aware, thanks very much. And they said, well, you don't look disabled. So my response to that is, well, you don't look like a doctor. You know, there's no point in getting into an argument about it. Just say something which is going to make them think, you know, reflect on what they've just done, and hopefully not do it to somebody else. So,
the disabled parking space thing is a funny one, because I used to look up to people with learning disabilities, and obviously if they're in the car and I can jump out and go and get them some shopping while they're in the car, but you do get people who say all sorts of stuff to you, and it's like, what do you want me to make him crawl into Tesco's to prove a point? Like, it's
crazy, isn't it? It's like, when did you get so much time on your hands to look and see who is parking where and make it your business? But you know, that's their problem, not ours.
Sure. I think in terms of generally with my liver transplant and stuff, everyone's just been really curious. Because before I had Wilson's disease, like I've been lucky, like the liver transplant cured my Wilson's disease, but I never really wanted to talk about Wilson's disease because it's Wilson's disease. And when you start telling people disease, they're a bit like, ooh,
that word,
what's that? Like, ooh, can I catch it and stuff? So liver,
Do you feel more confident talking about it now, though?
Yeah, definitely. I never did any talking about it before my transplant. I never really, even before my transplant, I didn't really reach out to many transplant patients. It was only afterwards that I did all of this and wanted to find out more, really.
That's amazing. So I don't know a huge amount about Wilson's disease. I'm sorry. So, but it's cured through transplant.
Yeah, cured through transplant. Yeah, very, very lucky. That works. Yeah. So now it's just obviously the transplant medication.
And that's a disease in itself, isn't it? Being an immunosuppressed person. But again, going back to COVID, I actually think it's done people like us a favor in a strange way, again, because now people understand isolation, they understand masking up, they understand vulnerable people, they understand vaccination a lot better than what they did before. So I think actually all of that, you know, all of those 6 o'clock where we go and watch the Prime Minister talk, actually it was, if you flip it over and look at it another way, it's like a massive educational session. And all these people who have never been affected by a disease, by immunosuppression, by a transplant, they've just suddenly learned so much, and they've suddenly got so much more respect for what's going on in other people's lives, whether they look like they're ill or not. And now they're all to a level better educated on how to be around other people, even if they have just got a common cold, because that to us can be deadly. So I think it's, you know, it's good that the world has opened up its eyes a bit and they recognize vulnerable people a bit more, which is good, because, you know, unfortunately with immunosuppression, even though, like you say, it's your transplant is good Wilson's disease, you're now immunosuppressed for the rest of your life, because your body needs to continue accepting that graft. And so there's always some health issues there, isn't there?
The medication, the side effects from the medication I'm on now are way scarier than the ones I was on before. I never had any side effects. Obviously now, you know, transplant patients, you've got to worry about skin cancer, diabetes, I mean, I can't, everything, getting illnesses, you know.
It's crazy, isn't it?
But I feel way, way healthier than I ever have done. So, you know, swings and roundabouts.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm not at that stage yet, but I know I will be. I'm certain of that, and I will feel healthier than I ever have done. But it is funny, like you have this kind of new lease of life, don't you? And you just go and grab everything, and it gives you another opportunity. And I think you see the world in a different way, don't you?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, but the side effects, they're frightening. The way they say it, so, you know, where you factor 50, she can get skin cancer. It's just like, whoa, hang on a minute.
Yeah, hang on.
Why can't I eat marmalade?
Yeah.
You know, it's crazy. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's there's big things for us to forever, you know, navigate, and it's just part and parcel of the journey that we've been on.
Yeah. That was one of the only times I cried during the whole transplant process, was when they told me that I couldn't eat certain foods, and I just burst into tears. That was like pushed me over the edge. I was like, I can handle everything else, but stop taking this food away from me.
Yeah, you're gonna have to cook your steaks well done.
Yeah, I think it was the cheese. So they said something about cheese, and that was it. I was like, no cheese.
Yeah, and honey was a big one for me.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, really? That like since now I'll have like the honey from the supermarket, because I know that's been heat treated. I just can't buy it raw now from a nice farm shop. But yeah,
I have done recently, to be fair, but I took a risk. It's just nice.
I've gone back to medium steaks. I can't handle it. I'm never going to insult a chef and ask for a well done steak. I needed a steak. So yeah, I think some things, the most important ones, aren't they, are the lime, pomegranate, and grapefruit.
Yeah, because they stop the medication from actually working.
Yeah, I think the funniest thing for me I found was they would come in, they go, your tacrolimus, your anti-rejection, it's your most important drug. Every morning, take this, take this, take this. Don't forget it. Always on time. And then they go, but on blood day, don't take it.
Yeah.
It's like, what? You've just trained me to believe if I don't take this drug in the morning, I'm going to die.
Yeah.
But on blood days, I've got to wait until 3.
Yeah, and then they said to me, because I'd have to obviously travel all the way to London, have these bloods travel all the way home. They said, just take it at night. So for me now, like, if I do forget it during the morning, I will just come home and take it in the afternoon or evening.
Exactly. But you just think, wow, you really drill in how important it is, like this one drug
at the same time, because you can't leave the hospital either, can you? I don't know whether they did that for you. Like, they make you take your meds in front of the doctors and the nurses, and they make you prove that you know what you're doing.
In a safe.
Yeah.
It's just like, what are these things that I'm taking? And then it comes to blood day, they really don't matter. It's crazy. But hey, we do as we're told, which is good.
Yeah. There was one thing that I just wanted to address, because I know you do get a lot of people that are obviously interested in becoming a liver donor, and I didn't know this at all. The myth of that if you become a liver donor, the doctors will kill you to get your liver or your organs. Like, this is the most ludicrous thing I have heard, but I've heard people that actually believe it and have been told it, and so I think we just need to address that is definitely not the case.
Definitely not the case. A lot of people think they're in, I don't know, let's pick an example. They've had a heart attack, they've had a car crash, whatever it is, and they're really badly ill, they're in hospital, and they think, oh, hang on, I've signed the organ donation register. That means the doctor's not going to work as hard on me, because if I die, I'm going to save 9 people. It's really not the case. Like, the patient in front of them is their number one priority, and they'll do anything to save a life. And if they can save that patient, great. They won't even think about organ donation until that.
I doubt the doctor would even know, to be honest.
No, they don't. It's not. It's nowhere in their thought, and it's a whole different team that deals with it. And the other thing a lot of people don't know is if they sign the register, they automatically, that's it, great, they're going to be an organ donor. Again, not necessarily. Now, you've got to die in a really specific, I hate that word, I always say the ocean instead of the word specific. You've got to die in a hospital setting, because the minute you die, and I know you and I talk about death quite easily because we're so in tune with it, and people that watch this, listen to it, may find it quite difficult, and I apologise for that. But the minute you pass away, your heart stops, and that means the rest of your organs no longer are receiving oxygen or blood. And from that moment, your organs then start to die as well. That organ is not going to be any good for us for a transplant situation. So you need to pass away in a hospital setting where they can actually keep your heart pumping even after you are dead, whilst they look for a match to see if there is anybody on the list that they would match for that particular organ. So it's not a given when you sign the register. How at the minute, with the soft opt-out system that there is, when the law changed, you don't even need to sign the register. But the reason why we really encourage people to do that is because it gives a firm confirmation that you want to be an organ donor. So if you haven't signed if you haven't signed it or opted out, they will automatically assume you want to be an organ donor. But if you haven't had a conversation with your family who are in that hospital going through their most hardest, shocking moment, which they never thought they would live through, they then are getting asked by this nurse that they've never met before, do you know if they wanted to be an organ donor or not? It's a really hard situation, conversation to put your family members into.
Yeah.
So the campaign is register. Go online, just Google organ donation registration. It will come straight up. Pop your wishes in there, whether you do or whether you don't. And it'll also give you the option to say, I'm happy to give everything, but I want to keep my eyes. I'm happy to keep everything, but I want to keep my heart. And there's different reasons why people will agree to some things and not other, and that's absolutely fine. It's your choice. So go on there and register in or register out, and then tell your family, I do or I don't want to be an organ donor. It just stops one of the hardest conversations being made once you've passed away, if you've done it with them before, whether that be 50, 40, 10, 5 years before it actually happens. Yeah, it's just really important to have that conversation and see it as a way of doing something for your family. You know, it's hard to have the conversation with them because you're talking about something you never want to happen. But at the same time, what you're doing for them is you're making a decision very easy if it were to happen. And they were there at the hospital when, you know, the hardest moment ever, you know, came to fruition.
Yeah. So. Yeah, it is a very hard situation to talk about, obviously, talking about dying, but it doesn't even need to have to be a really deep conversation, does it, really? Just throw it in and pass it. Yeah.
Are we having cheesecake pudding?
You know,
You really can just throw it in like that. And, or use an example. I mean, I know Coronation Street, they did a very, very bad, and in the community, everyone went up in arms about the recent liver transplant story.
I haven't seen that.
I didn't watch it. But yeah, apparently it wasn't very realistic. But even that, you know, did you see that storyline on Coronation Street? Yeah, if it ever comes to it, I'm happy to be a donor, or it's not for me. And that's it. End of conversation. That's fine. And it's just like you say, it's a really simple thing that you can just say really quickly and just get it over and done with. Or you can have that in-depth conversation and, you know, see what your family's views are all about. You know, you could save a life.
Yeah, well, us two have been saved.
Yeah.
Which is incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I was one of those. I didn't realise how poorly I was. I don't know about you.
That was definitely me.
Yeah, I was like, no. I'd want everyone before me on the list to go before me. I'd hate to be called before anybody else. I'm really not that bad. I was getting really skinny. I was becoming skeletal. I was getting more yellow. Obviously, I had this drain coming out of my nose. So you just get used to it, don't you? And you say, you're fine. But actually, and to me, I was like, I'm getting transplanted because I've got an itch. That's how it was in my head, and how it was originally discussed. But when the surgeon came and saw me, the first time I met my surgeon afterwards, he actually said, your liver was huge. It was massive.
You see pictures?
No, I didn't. And I've asked and I haven't seen them. I did see the liver when I walked into the theatre. My new liver.
Did you?
Yeah, wow. They were working on it. And I said, is that my new liver? And they said, yeah. Yeah, it's like, wow, you know,
that's madness.
I'll go. But he said your liver was huge. Your call came at the right time. Your information. He said it was in a bad way. It was in a worse way than even what we expected. So you were right, because I took a DCD liver rather than the gold standard. It was what was available at the match that came in. So I said you were right to say yes.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I'm aware that I've nearly kept you for an hour, so
I talk a lot. I'm sorry.
It's good. It's been great chatting to you. It's been really good. Like I say, I mean, it's so good to sort of see people's journeys on Instagram and through social media, and then finally have a chat with them. And
as I said when we first connected, I feel like I know you already, so it's great. Make sure you go on holiday again soon, please. I'm not allowed to travel yet, so I need to live through everybody else's holidays.
Yeah, you'll be able to go soon though. That was one of the things that I was worried about, is would I be able to travel after transplant and everything. And it's nice being able to share that, with people, and for people to see the opportunities after.
Exactly. I guess was it nerve-wracking? going away, or were you quite relaxed about it?
Do you know what? It wasn't until I got there the first night in Panama, and I got a little bit of a tummy ache for whatever reason. There was no real reason, but in my head it was like, oh my God, I'm now hours, miles, days away from home.
Yeah, you
I've
weren't
got a
particularly
stomach
in
ache.
the
What's it
country.
going to be? Yeah, please. And then after the first night, you know, when it went away, I was very cautious about what I ate there in Panama. I've traveled before to Thailand and stuff, and I ate all the street food. Did get food poisoning, but this time I was like, I'm not even going to risk it, you know.
Yeah, well done you.
Yeah, it was.
It's not as if you were like 2 hours from home, or
No.
you know, from your nearest transplant unit or
No.
something. You did go quite out and
Yeah.
wild, didn't you?
Yeah, Panama. So it was yeah, a couple of days travel away. But yeah, I mean, after that first night of sort of unsettled nerves, you know, it was fine, and then you just forget, you know.
Yeah, good. Well, good. I look forward to my first trip away, whenever that will be, and I will go back and I will look on Instagram for all the community that are traveling and put myself at ease and go, this is gonna be fine. You know, take a good stock of drugs with you, and
that's it.
Yeah, some in the hand luggage, some in the suitcase in case you get split from your.
We put them everywhere. Hannah's bags, like my girlfriend's bags, my bags, every single bag we had tablets in. Like that was the main thing.
That's it, isn't it? As long as you've got your anti-rejection with you, you've got time at the end of the day. So
exactly.
no, that's good. That's good to know.
Well, thank you so much, Lisa. I'm going to say goodbye now and let you get on with your day.
Thanks, Danny. It was an absolute pleasure talking with you, and nice to meet you.
Yeah, lovely to meet you. I'm sure we'll meet up. Are you coming to the transplant games at some point?
Unfortunately, not this year. Hopefully
not this year. Yeah. It's obviously way too soon for you to be out running and stuff. This year I am, hoping to. Yeah, I've signed up for everything. So
have you?
Yeah. For
you just
for
have to wait and see what you get.
Well, I signed up for the 100 meters and a few other events. I haven't heard back yet, so I'm not really sure how it all works. But it's my first year doing it. I'm just excited. I just want to go along and see everyone, and just go along and say hello to everyone.
Well, I'll see you at Transplant Games 2023.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you, Lisa.
Take care.
Perfect. Bye-bye.